Imagine standing on a stage in front of 3,000 people, looking down at the front row, and seeing your parents' faces turn as white as a ghost. They weren't there to see me. They didn't even know I was a student at this university. They came to watch my twin sister Chloe graduate, the daughter they actually invested in. But they were about to realize that the child they discarded as a bad investment was the one holding the microphone as the valedictorian. Before I tell you how I got here, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe if you believe your worth isn't defined by someone else's opinion. Now let's go back to the living room meeting that changed my life 4 years ago. Right now, tell me where you are watching from. Also tell me what time it is in your world right now. My name is Evelyn, and this is the moment everything in my life began to break and then rebuild in a way I never expected. It started in a normal house with quiet walls and a family that looked perfect from outside. I was 18 years old at that time. My sister Chloe always stood in the center of attention. She was confident. She was loud. She knew how to smile in a way that made people believe she was born for success. I was different. I was quiet. I studied more than I spoke. I believed hard work would always be enough. But I was wrong about the world I lived in. One evening, my father called both of us into the living room. He was sitting like a judge waiting to give a final decision. My mother stood behind him without saying anything. The air in that room felt heavy. I could feel something was going to change forever. My father first looked at Chloe. He spoke with a soft voice that I had never heard before. He told her she got accepted into Oak Ridge University, a very expensive private university, and he said he would pay for everything. Chloe smiled like she had already won life. She hugged him tightly. My mother even cried with happiness. Then my father turned toward me. His face changed. It became cold and distant, like I was a stranger sitting in his house. He said my name, Evelyn. I still remember that moment like it happened yesterday. My heart started beating faster. He told me I also got into a good public university. But then he said something that broke me in half. He said they would not support me financially. Not for tuition. Not for housing. Not for anything. I looked at him and tried to understand if he was joking. But his eyes did not change. He continued speaking. He said Chloe has leadership potential. He said she is an asset. He said she will bring return in life. Then he looked at me and said I am smart but not special. He said there is no return on investment in me. My mother did not defend me. She did not even look at me. In that moment, I felt something inside me fall apart silently. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just sat there trying to understand how a parent can measure a child like money. That night, I went to my room and closed the door. I stared at the ceiling for hours. I realized something very important. I was not going to get love through them. I was not going to get support. I was on my own. The next morning, I woke up different. Something inside me had changed. I started planning my escape from that life. I got a small shared room near my university. It was not comfortable. It had no proper cooling. But it was mine. I started working early mornings at a coffee shop. I would wake up before sunrise, serve customers with a tired smile, then rush to classes all day. And at night I cleaned dorm bathrooms. My life became a cycle of exhaustion. There were days I felt like collapsing, but I kept going, because I remembered what my father said. No return on investment. Those words became fuel inside me. At the same time, I saw Chloe living a different life. She posted pictures of expensive clothes, trips, friends, luxury dinners. My parents were proud of her online life. They shared her photos everywhere. I was invisible in my own family. One holiday I called home. I thought maybe they would ask how I am. My father answered coldly and said he is busy. Then he ended the call. Later I saw a photo online of their dinner table. There were 3 plates, 3 chairs. No place for me. That moment hurt more than anything before. But instead of breaking me, it made me stronger. I stopped waiting for them. I stopped expecting anything from them. I focused only on survival and growth. Every night after work I studied. Even when my eyes burned. even when my body hurt. Slowly my grades started improving. My professors started noticing me, but I still felt invisible in the world. Until one day in my second year something happened that changed everything. A professor called Dr. Eris Thorne noticed me struggling in class. He was strict and known for high standards. Most students feared him. One day after class he stopped me. He asked why I looked exhausted all the time. I told him everything. For the first time someone listened without judging me. He looked at me and said something I never forgot. He said potential means nothing if you stay invisible. He said I need to be seen by the world. He offered to mentor me. That moment became the first light in my dark journey. He later told me about a scholarship called Sterling Fellowship. Only a few students in the entire country get it each year. It covers everything including living expenses. He said I should apply. I did not believe I could win, but I still tried. I wrote my application after long shifts. Sometimes I wrote with shaking hands from tiredness. I poured my entire life into those essays. Every struggle, every night of pain, every moment of silence. Then one evening I received the email. I opened it outside the coffee shop. My hands were shaking. I read the words slowly. I had been selected as a Sterling Scholar. I could not believe it. I sat on the ground and cried for the first time in years. That scholarship meant I could transfer to Oak Ridge University for my final year, the same university where my sister studied. But I decided something. I would not tell my family anything. Not yet. After I received the scholarship email, my life did not become easy immediately. It became more complicated. I still had to work at the coffee shop every morning. I still had to clean dorm rooms at night. But now there was something inside me that was different. I had a direction. I was no longer just surviving. I was building something. I kept the scholarship secret. I did not tell my parents. I did not tell Chloe. I wanted to wait until the right moment. At the coffee shop, I would smile at customers. But inside my mind, I was thinking about Oak Ridge University, the same place where Chloe was living her dream life. I wondered how it would feel to walk there as a student. Months passed slowly. Then finally the transfer date arrived. I packed my small bag. I did not own much. Just closed books and a laptop. I left my old room early in the morning. The sun was rising. The streets were quiet. I felt like I was stepping into a new life. When I arrived at Oak Ridge University, I stopped at the gate. Everything looked bigger than I imagined. The buildings were tall. The ground was clean. Students walked with confidence. For a moment I felt small again. But I reminded myself why I was there. I walked inside. No one knew me. No one cared who I was. That was exactly what I wanted. I attended classes quietly. I sat in the back. I observed everything. I studied harder than ever before. Days turned into weeks. Then something unexpected happened. One afternoon I went to the library. I was searching for books for a project. The library was quiet. Only the sound of pages moving was there. I walked between shelves. Then I saw her. Chloe, my twin sister. She was sitting at a table with friends. She looked happy and confident as always. For a moment I froze. She looked different but still the same. Like she belonged there without effort. She suddenly looked up. Our eyes met. The moment stopped everything around us. She stood up slowly. She walked toward me. She looked confused first, then shocked. She said my name, Evelyn. I stayed calm. She asked how I was here. I told her I transferred here on my own scholarship. She did not believe it at first. She kept staring at me, like she was trying to understand a puzzle. Then she asked the question that carried emotion. Do you hate us? I stayed silent for a moment. Then I answered. I said I do not hate people I stopped caring about. Her face changed. For the first time I saw uncertainty in her eyes. She tried to speak again, but stopped. Then she slowly walked back to her table. I went back to my books, but my hands were shaking slightly. Seeing her brought back memories, but I did not let it stop me. I focused again. Days after that meeting I started noticing something. Chloe was watching me from distance sometimes, but she never came close again. It felt like she was afraid of something, or maybe she was confused about who I had become. I kept my life simple. Study, work, sleep, repeat. Then one evening I received a message from Dr. Eris Thorne. He asked me to meet him. When I met him, he looked serious. He told me something important. He said there is a special opportunity coming for students, a national-level recognition program. Only a few students get selected. It was based on academic excellence and leadership impact. He said I should apply. I hesitated. I told him I was not sure if I was ready. He looked at me and said something that stayed with me. He said, "You are already ready, you just do not see it yet." So I applied again. This time I was more confident. I wrote about my journey. I wrote about my struggle. I wrote about working multiple jobs. I wrote about being called not worth investment. I wrote everything honestly. Weeks passed. Then one morning I received another email. My hands were cold when I opened it. I had been selected again. This time for a national fellowship program. It was bigger than anything I imagined. It meant I would be recognized across the country. I sat quietly for a long time. I did not cry this time. I just smiled, because I knew something was changing. Not outside me, inside me. At the same time I received another update. The program would end with a graduation ceremony at Oak Ridge University. All students and families would attend. I stopped for a moment when I read that, because I knew something important. My parents would be there. They would come for Chloe. They would sit in the front row for her. They would not expect me to be there at all. I closed my laptop, and I whispered to myself, "The moment is coming." But I did not know yet how powerful that moment would become. After I received the confirmation for the National Fellowship Program, I started preparing for something bigger than exams or interviews. I started preparing for a moment that would change everything I had lived through. But I still did not tell my family anything. Not my father. Not my mother. Not Chloe. I stayed silent. At Oak Ridge University, my life looked normal from the outside. I attended classes. I worked on projects. I met deadlines. I kept my head down. But inside me something was building. Confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet, strong confidence that comes after surviving pain. Every time I walked through campus, I felt like I was walking through the same place where my old life and new life were colliding. Sometimes I would pass students laughing with their families on video calls. Sometimes I would see parents visiting their children, and I would remember my own family, the ones who said I was not worth investment. I stopped feeling sadness. Instead, I started feeling distance, like I was separating from a life that no longer belonged to me. One day I was sitting in the library when Chloe appeared again. This time she did not look confused. She looked serious. She walked toward me slowly. She sat across from me without asking. For a few seconds neither of us spoke. Then she finally broke the silence. She asked why I was still pretending. I looked at her and said, "I am not pretending anything." She said, "People are talking." She said, "They are saying I am here because of luck or pity." I closed my book slowly. I told her I did not come here for their opinions. I came here for my future. She stared at me like she wanted to say something else, but she stopped. Then she leaned forward slightly and asked something different. She asked if I ever think about home. I looked at her and said, "Home is not a place that rejected me." That line made her go quiet. For the first time I saw something in her face that was not confidence. It was confusion mixed with guilt. But I did not stay in that moment. I stood up and left, because I did not want emotional chains anymore. I had spent too many years tied to people who did not see my value. Days passed again. Then the preparation for the final fellowship ceremony began. Oak Ridge University became full of energy. Students were practicing speeches. Media teams were setting up equipment. Guests were being invited. And slowly I started realizing something. This was not just a ceremony. This was going to be a stage where lives would be judged in public. One afternoon, Dr. Eris Thorne called me again. He asked me to come to his office. When I arrived, he closed the door. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something that made my heart slow down. He said my name was selected as one of the top speakers at the ceremony. He said I would be speaking in front of the entire audience, including faculty, students, and families. I stayed silent for a moment. Then I asked him one question. I asked if my family list was already confirmed. He said yes. All selected students could invite immediate family. I nodded slowly, because I already knew something. My family would come. But they would come for Chloe, not for me. They would sit in the front row. They would smile for cameras. They would celebrate their investment. And I would be standing somewhere they never expected. The person they once called a bad investment, now selected as one of the voices of the entire university. That night I could not sleep. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling. My mind kept replaying everything. The living room meeting, the rejection, the long nights of work, the exhaustion, the loneliness. And then I thought about the stage. I imagined standing there. I imagined seeing their faces. And I realized something. This was not about revenge. This was about truth. The truth they never wanted to see. That night I finally understood. My story was not ending. It was about to be revealed in front of everyone. And nothing could stop it now. The day of the ceremony arrived faster than I expected. Oak Ridge University looked different that morning. Everything felt brighter. Everything felt louder. Everything felt more alive. Students were walking in formal clothes. Cameras were everywhere. Families were arriving in waves. And I was standing in the middle of it all quietly, dressed simply, holding my notes for the speech, breathing slowly. But inside my heart was calm. Not nervous calm. Not scared calm. It was a controlled calm. Like everything in my life had led me exactly to this moment. I walked into the auditorium. The hall was massive. 3,000 seats filled slowly. I could hear conversations, laughter, camera clicks. Then I saw the front rows, reserved seating for families. And there they were, my parents, Robert and Eleanor, sitting proudly, smiling, looking around like they belonged in the center of success. Next to them was Chloe. She looked confident as always, dressed perfectly, like she was born for that spotlight. They were not here for me. They were here for her graduation, her achievement, her success. I stood at the back for a moment, watching them. No one noticed me. Not yet. Then the ceremony began. Speeches started. Awards were given. Names were called. Every time Chloe's name was mentioned, my parents smiled wider. They clapped loudly. They took photos. They looked proud. And I watched quietly. Not angry. Not emotional. Just observant. Like I was watching a story that used to belong to me but no longer did. Then the announcer returned to the microphone. He said it was time for the valedictorian speech. The highest academic honor. The student with the highest achievement. I stayed still, because I already knew. But they did not. The announcer opened the paper. The hall became silent. Then he spoke. He said my full name. Evelyn Thorne Townsend. For a moment nothing happened. Like the world froze. Then the reaction started. People turned their heads. Whispers filled the hall. Students looked around confused. And then I saw the front row. My mother stopped smiling. My father leaned forward slightly, trying to understand. Chloe turned her head slowly and saw me, standing at the side of the stage. The color drained from her face. My father's hand stopped moving. The camera in his hand almost slipped. My mother looked like she could not breathe, because the daughter they ignored, the daughter they refused to fund, the daughter they called a bad investment, was now standing as the valedictorian. I walked toward the stage. Every step felt like history rewriting itself. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me, but I did not look at the crowd. I looked straight ahead. When I reached the podium, I placed my notes down and looked up. The entire hall was silent now, waiting. I began speaking. My voice was calm. I did not raise it. I did not lower it. I just spoke the truth. I talked about struggle, about working multiple jobs, about nights without sleep, about being told I was not worth investment. I did not name anyone, but I felt their presence in the front row. I could feel their silence getting heavier. My mother's eyes were filled with tears. Not proud tears. Not happy tears. Heavy tears. My father was frozen, like he had just realized a mistake too large to fix. I continued speaking. I said I am not here because someone believed in me. I am here because I learned to believe in myself. The hall stayed silent for a second. Then slowly applause began. Soft at first, then growing stronger. But I did not look back. I finished my speech. I thanked the faculty. I thanked the program. I thanked the opportunity. And I walked away from the podium. Not rushing. Not running. Just steady. Because I knew something important. The moment of truth was not the speech. It was what came after. And I could already feel it waiting for me at the edge of that stage. After I stepped down from the stage, the silence behind me felt heavier than the applause. I walked slowly toward the side exit. My heart was calm, but my mind was alert, because I knew what was coming next. People started standing. Students were clapping louder. Some were even shouting my name. But I did not stop. I kept walking. And then I felt it. A hand grabbing my arm gently. I turned around. It was my father, Robert. For a moment he looked different. Not powerful. Not confident. Just human. He tried to speak, but his voice broke slightly. He said my name, Evelyn. Then he said he did not know. He said he made a mistake. Behind him my mother was crying silently. Chloe stood a few steps away, watching everything. Her face was full of shock and something deeper. Loss. My father tried to explain more. He said he thought he was making the right decision years ago. He said he was wrong about investment and value. I listened without interrupting. Then I slowly pulled my arm away. And I spoke. Not loudly. Not angrily. Just clearly. I told him something he would never forget. I said he was right about one thing. I was not a good investment for him, because he never knew how to value something he could not control. The words hit harder than any argument. My mother covered her mouth and cried. My father looked down. Chloe stepped back slowly, like she was realizing a truth she never wanted to see. I stood there for a moment, not because I wanted to hurt them, but because I wanted them to understand. Then I turned away and walked out. Outside the hall the air felt different. Light, open, free. For the first time in my life I did not feel like I was carrying their judgment. I felt like I had finally stepped out of it. Months passed after graduation. Life moved forward. I moved to Manhattan for work. I joined a top firm. My days became busy. My nights became peaceful. I did not think about the past every day anymore. But I never forgot it, because it shaped me. One evening I received a message. It was from my old university. They were launching a new scholarship fund. 4 students with no family support. Students like I once was. And they asked if I would help lead it. I sat quietly for a long time. Then I agreed. Because I knew something important. Pain should not end in silence. It should turn into purpose. Years ago I was told I was not worth investment. Today I was helping invest in others. Students who feel invisible. Students who feel unwanted. Students who feel forgotten. And if you are listening to this right now, if you feel like the world has already decided your value, listen carefully. Your worth was never theirs to decide. Not your parents. Not your teachers. Not your circumstances. You are not a number on a paper. You are not a return on investment. You are a life still unfolding. And sometimes, the people who doubt you the most are the same ones who will one day watch you rise beyond everything they understood. My story did not end at that podium. Started there. And now, it continues in every life that refuses to give up. Before you leave this story, if this journey of Evelyn touched something inside you, Hit that like button, subscribe to the voice that feels, and share this video with someone who needs to remember their worth. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now in your world? Because every story here connects across countries, across pain, and across hope. And if you have ever been told you are not enough, just remember, this is not your ending. This is your beginning. Your worth was never theirs to decide. Not your parents, not your teachers, not your circumstances. You are not a number on a paper. You are not a return on investment. You are a life still unfolding. And sometimes, the people who doubt you the most are the same ones who will one day watch you rise beyond everything they understood. My story did not end at that podium. Started there. And now, it continues in every life that refuses to give up. Before you leave this story, if this journey of Evelyn touched something inside you, hit that like button, subscribe to the voice that feels, and share this video with someone who needs to remember their worth. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now in your world? Because every story here connects across countries, across pain, and across hope. And if you have ever been told you are not enough, just remember, this is not your ending. This is your beginning.